So this build is for light gaming, simple video editing, and for some online teaching. We'll talk about its parts, build it, and test it out. Then let's see how it performs. Everything you need to know, coming up. Hey, what's up guys, it's Mac here, and we do a lot of tech related videos like this one. So if this is your first time, consider subscribing. With that said, let's check out the parts of this build. First, the start of the build. So this is called the Ryzen 3 3100. Most of the reviews says that it is an upgrade from the 3200G. I decided to go with this because it is the cheapest powerful CPU you can get by the time we're making this video. Correct me if I'm wrong. Most reviews says that this processor is better or on par with Intel's i7 7700K. Just a quick reminder though that this processor will not work without a graphics card installed in your motherboard. And speaking of motherboard, we're going for the basic one. And this is called the B450M DS3H from Gigabyte. Not much to say about this board, but it has been tried and tested for years, and it's very cheap motherboard with overclocking support, RGB fusion, and more. If you want to see some detailed specification, just check this out and pause the video. Moving on. For the RAM sticks, I decided to go with Avexir Core 2 Spectrum. It has a 2x 8GB with 3200 MHz. Not to mention it also has an RGB features, not that it will make your build faster, but it will add a little bling on your build. For the boot drive, we'll be using Team Group's MS30 256GB M.2 SSD for lesser cable work. And yes, we got no hard drive included since we're on a budget, but of course we can do an upgrade soon if needed. Now for the graphics card, I decided to go with Gigabyte RX 570 4GB version, which is, I think it's powerful enough for 1080p gaming, and it's also a budget GPU, you know, we're on a budget. And of course, if you want to know more detailed specification about this graphics card, because there's not much to say, just check this out and pause the video. For the power supply, we'll be using the Deepcool's DE600V2. It's actually 600 watts power supply. And I know what you've been thinking. I know this is not the best one, but due to the scarcity of the PC parts nowadays in my place, or I mean in my country, because of the pandemic, I got no other choice but to just pick this up so that we could start with this build. And for the case, we'll be using the Coleman Robin. I know most of you haven't heard about this case, but it's actually a Chinese company called IcePC. Lastly, the most popular fans in the stores right now for some reason, this is called the Dark Flash DR12 Pro. This one only has the Aura Sync, so I guess we'll be settling with its hub control included in the box. Well, that's all the parts, and let's check some V-roll before we test it out. Let's go. Now, before we start talking about the performance, let me just inform you that I'll be using a 1440p 144Hz monitor from HKC. We will just do a custom video setting for the games that we'll be testing, as I've said earlier that this build is for light gaming only. So the games we will choose are only limited to games like Torchlight 2, so here are the results. As for the online teaching, the results are subjective and will depend on how much workload will a teacher do in this build. More likely it's on webcam driven workload like Zoom, Facebook call, G Suite or whatnot, also video editing, simple graphic designing, and some web chats. So I also asked some of the teachers how will they use this build, so they told me they'll be needing 2 monitors, especially during recording or live streaming teaching, which is I think this PC is more than capable of such tasks. By the way, I tried this build with my 1440p monitor with the 1080p monitor, so it runs with no problem at all. Actually, the GPU temps are around 50C in idle. In conclusion, the 600 PC build is just right for the task intended for it, like gaming, simple video editing, and some online teaching. If there's anything that I'm not happy about this build, I would say it is the PC case. Well, let me tell you about it. First, the PCIe slot are a bit off, and if you can see over here, the GPU input are not in line. The PCI covers are permanently no cover when you remove it, and for some reason the manufacturer decided to remove the first slot cover, assuming that you'll use it. The standoff are pre-installed for ATX motherboard, but it lacks one standoff for micro ATX, which is very frustrating. The RGB control in the front panel uses the reset switch to cycle through the colors of the RGB, and it has no way to turn the lighting off. Intake is also a bit choked, with only one side is open for intake. I'm not sure if this is intentional, but there is also a bit of a space between the case and the glass panel. The case build is strong though, and I like the sandblasted texture. It also has a spacious cable management area which is easy to work with. I also think I made a bad decision about the fans, since the fan speed can only be set or controlled by the hub. and not by the motherboard. The worst part is the fan speed from the hub is slow and fast only. When I mean slow, it's really slow, and fast, which is really fast and really loud. It's a bit weird that the hub has an RGB connection going in your motherboard but has no fan header control. So I guess we will keep this on high just to make sure that we got a cool temperature in our PC. As for the rest of the build, I'm happy with its performance, but you might also say that the power supply is not that reliable. Well, I guess we will see that in the future. If ever the power supply fails, we'll just have to make an update video about it. Well, if you want to build the same specs like this PC, make sure you just check out the description below for the PC parts. So that's it guys. If you found this video interesting and helpful, make sure you give us a thumbs up and share it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.